Hey Danny, how are you?
Hey, Erwin, good to see you. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Always great. Just always love seeing that beautiful smile, that face. You just get me excited every time I'm like inspired. I'm like, yes, I'm talking to Danny today. So great to see you.
Do my best. They started calling me a little power frau at work, so like a little like powerful woman. And they at the same time it's kind of like a joke because I'm the shortest in the whole team, and they also laugh that they can hear me like on every floor of the entire mall. But it's fine. It's just me being me.
Well, we love you and you've always been, just someone that again, that just brings positive energy and from the day, we met and everything, I'm like, I just love talking to Danny. I just love just
And I love
connecting
talking to
with you.
Erwin.
I love it. I love it. Well, something today that I think that would be cool to chat about is just, there's times, and I'm generally speaking here, where, it could be us, it could be people we're around, people we care about, where we're just feeling down and out. We may not know why, whether it's stress, could be something that could have been on our minds for a long time. Some of us communicate less than others, let's just say, right? But I feel like we keep battling, right? There's this topic we talked about last time about mental health, right? And one of the things I remember you were talking through was like, hey, be resilient, right? And you're not alone, right? Reach out for help, right? And talk to people. And I think when people are feeling down, I've gone through this. I've gone through my ups and downs, and sometimes I'm like, oh man, I'm out of it. I don't even feel like not getting out of bed, but I feel like slow, right? I feel like I don't even want to go to the gym. I don't want to eat. And it could be, am I telling myself, am I going through some sort of mood, some sort of, is it the season? But the point is, I feel like I got to make a call. I got to go and talk to somebody to uplift me. And I always kind of think of this, Danny, as an upward spiral where I want to go spiral up, not spiral down, right? So I'm thinking, what can I do? Do I have my morning habits, my morning rituals, right? So we all have our things that we do that gets us going. But, I think I wanted to get your perspective on this because you've shared a lot with stuff from history and experiences you've had with talking to people about, hey, if you're feeling a little bit down, you're feeling out, and maybe people may not know why. What are some indicators, some things that you would want to tell people to look out for? Because I'm also curious. I want to know because I've been feeling it lately as well.
No, I wish it on nobody, feeling like that, just feeling so, yeah, for lack of a better word, sad, or also just
Yeah.
even not even just being sad, but being helpless in your sadness, where it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know why I'm sad, or I don't know what to do to feel better. And, it's just a natural part of life, for just human beings. We all have bad days or we all have sad days. But something that really, has kind of stuck with me is over the years where it's just there's a difference between like having a bad day or even like a bad phase or a bad situation. Because especially with a bad situation, there is one person that can change that, and that is you, that person.
Right.
You're the only
Exactly.
person in charge of changing a bad situation, whether it be personal, professional, anything. If you're having a bad go of it, you really need to be aware, is this something that I have control over? Is this something I can change? Is this something that nap and a banana is going to help? Because that's what my mom always says. Did you eat a banana? Did you
Yeah.
take a nap yet? And it's okay, no,
Fantastic.
she's right. Get a little potassium and a little sleep.
Always help.
Always helps, right? Always helps. For me, it's just been a journey of knowing, am I gonna be feeling like this for a while, or am I gonna be just going through this for a couple hours or a couple days? And I've gotten much better about, seeing what the difference is or knowing how I'm feeling. But it was a struggle. There were times in my life where it wasn't just a bad day. It wasn't just a bad couple of hours. I'm talking weeks
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I can't even explain it. Or when there have been times in my past where like I just would be doing my usual day to day, and I'd start crying, and I just couldn't stop. I just could not stop it. And the first person I called was my daddy. And I said, I don't know what's going on. And we talked a lot about it. And that was when he also suggested that I go talk to somebody, a healthcare professional, And it did wonders for me also, not just having someone sit across from me, you know, tell me this is how it is and this is what you need to do, but also working with you to saying, why do you think you're feeling this way? And helping you kind of figure it out as well. So that when it does happen in the future, that you're better at defining this is what's happening, this is what I'm going through, and just being aware of it, because being aware of it just makes it so much more comfortable and so much more you have to be kind to yourself and understanding to yourself when those things happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is, be upset with yourself or angry. Why won't you stop being upset, or why won't you stop crying? It's like, okay, well, maybe instead of that, maybe why am I crying or why am I so upset? And just looking at it through different eyes, I think helps. Asking those questions.
Well, I think what I heard from you and what is great is, you reached out to someone right away, right? You reached out to dad and you were able to get some feedback and, had a chance to chat with other people and you were able to, like you said, emotions are emotions regardless, right? You're going to go through and you're going to have these feelings. All of us will go through it. I have my bouts sometimes too, and I'm thinking I might be, this is as funny as it may sound. I may see something that triggers me on a scene in a movie, in a commercial, in something online, like, or a photo. I'm like, you got to get you teary-eyed, right? It could be some core memory I've had with, my mom and dad. And again, I'm talking happiness, but at the same time, there could be something I've seen that triggers me to feel like, God, I don't know why I'm mad right now. I don't know why I'm sad, but I could tell you for at least my experience, we all have our different experiences that you know, I try to go do the same thing. I'll try to say if I'm in a funk, I'll call somebody, right? I'll call somebody that I know that I could count on that is reliable, whether they're blood or they're considered family, period, right? I mean, I want to be able to reach out and some people don't have that, right, Danny? Some people don't have a person to reach out to. So it's always important to know that, hey, what support system or group of people do you have around you? And you and I are lucky, we have people, some don't, and that's it's kind of what, people I've worked with people that sometimes would hide stuff very well. They would hide into work and they would say, hey, I'm doing this. But then when you ask them something, people, right? We know people, we're social people. And when they kind of dismiss things or seem down and they turn their back on you after they ask a question, they just say, yeah, and they kind of scratch on you, they're going through something. And yes, we
Mhm.
don't pry, but we know because you know why? We've been there. So, you kind of just I kind of try to softly push, right? Hey, do this, but we have empathy. But then on the flip side, some people just maybe just want to be alone, to deal with it because we don't know what they're going through, but I feel good at least asking, and I think, having someone to talk to is important. And I always think the one thing you and I were talking about earlier, right? What about, if we're down and out and we can't get out of a funk, what about doing something with people, friends, could be a partner, a spouse, wife, husband, whatever, doing something like going to the gym, right? To do an activity together, to get out. There was a thing that, I know you know this, but we're talking about, hey, there's people we see jogging in the streets or in the park or whatever, and they're talking like, how did these people be in super great shape if they're running and they're able to talk and go like this at the same time? Like I couldn't do it.
God knows I can't do it. Like, I tried when I was 18 and that was one and done.
And but and here's my thing, like with people that you've met in your life, right? And people that experience from your perspective, people that you may have been talking with, people you've worked with, or people just in general you've known. What have you seen as far as what things they've done to keep themselves from feeling down, right? And again, could be a broad menu of things that they're feeling. But, you've observed some of these things, what have you seen? Is it going out? Is it not necessarily going out and getting, doing some bad shit, but is there a thing that's, that is a common theme that you've seen? Is it just being together with people regardless of what's going on? What can you share with that?
I see that almost every day. And it's very interesting because living in Europe, something that they really like put a lot of, like they put a lot of weight on it, so to say, is that you have to have a hobby.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter what the hobby is, but this is just something that's so encouraged. And I just don't remember enough, or I wasn't in the work long enough in America to really give my 2 cents about it there. But here it's so important. And I mean, almost everybody I know here, they have something that they do, whether it's being part of a club or being
Right.
part of a sports team, having like just a passion that they have outside of their work. Is that people do love to work here. They're
Yep.
very hardworking, the Germans and the Austrians, but I do find it so refreshing and so healthy, that they are also they want you to have something else to be living for and doing.
Right. Right.
When I was in high school, for example, I played tennis. And then when I lived in the city in Germany, so when I lived in Munich, it wasn't necessarily an option or a possibility for me. But I remember when I moved to the countryside, one of the first things that I did was that I joined a tennis league. And it was funny because it was 2 times a week we would have practice. And then, like in the summers, we would have 6 tournaments. And I remembered it wasn't like we were playing for we weren't playing for money, or we weren't playing to, get these world title. It wasn't, Wimbledon or anything like that. But it was such a social, amazing interaction. And then combining that with something that is physically intense as something like tennis, where you're just, you're working out, running, like a crazy woman for sometimes, 2, 3 hours. It's been amazing, and it's so helpful, and it also just gives you just this team feeling that I felt so much when I was in high school. And I don't know if there's necessarily, like, the same type of, like, club atmosphere, but I don't have any friends in Europe here who aren't involved with at least one club, like, doing whether it be for sports, or they do, like you can get your hunting license here
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
involved with a hunting club. And it's just so cool because you need to have something else to focus on that is just pure positivity, because that's so, so crucial to getting you through hard times, bad times, whether it be bad phases, bad situations. It's so crucial to try and keep, even if it's not your whole mind or your whole brain, but at least part of you, to keep that positivity, to think about what's one really good thing that I have going for me right now. Well, you know what? Not only that, I have this going for me too.
Right.
And then pretty
Right.
soon you've got this whole list. And then it's like, yeah, I was feeling down, and I acknowledge that I am, and I'm okay with it, but I also have so much good stuff going on in my life. And I do really love that about my teams here, or my clubs here, and it's just been great. It's so cool. It's so interesting just to see that kind of difference.
Well, well said too. And I think what I heard from you too was untangling, right? Like finding the number one, find the micro joys, right? The things you could hold on to, remind yourself when you're feeling down and out, right? I totally 100% agree. I do that. Like sometimes if I'm like going through and dealing with something, I'm like, oh, hey, I'm doing this. But at the same time, those are kind of things that kind of keep me going, for a long time. And I would also say some people, and I was talking, I had a DM from one of our followers, right? One of our just people that just, hey, thank you for recording or saying this. This made me feel good today because I did not want to go in and do something stupid. I read between the lines on what that meant, right? I'm not going to show it on here because, it was a private DM to me, but I was like, wow, we impacted one person, right, Danny? One person that said thank you, right? And there's a lot of people saying thank you on there. So to me, we're not here selling anything. We're trying to just have people listen in, relate to them, and let them know, one, they're not alone, and we want to give them the strength and the power to win those inner battles, right? And I think with this one person too, they went and described, yeah, a struggle at work to fit in. And when I read it, I had to read it a couple times, and I'm like thinking, this person ties their identity, it's tangled with their career. You know what I mean? And you can't do that, right? You can't take that home. A lot of us are guilty of doing that before. I know I have been, but with this specific example, this person was like, "Oh yeah, I get home but I know that for sure they felt burnt out. They felt like they just weren't doing good enough." And I thought to myself, I'm like, I'm not here to kind of, I'm not in a position nor am I qualified to go over analyze this, but I just replied back to the person. I said, "Hey, thank you. We're glad that we're able to get you to feel like you're not alone and don't give up." But also in my I said, "Hey, I think it would be a good time to reach out to talk to people that are close to you, that care about you, and also reach out to, someone that could be a professional that you could speak with, and that was it, and then at the end I just said, "Hey, we're here, to always listen." But to your point, Danny, I agree, like focusing on those micro wins and the micro joys. And I always felt like, when I would do this, Danny, if I'm beat at the end of the day, I'm going through all these things, and let's just had a long, long day. How do I reset? How do I reset myself? I don't know how you do it, but I feel like, okay, if it's a good day, a bad day, long day, how do I make it so it's not gonna become a bad week, a bad month? You know what I mean? And that comes back to what you said, focus on the positive things that you could control, So
Absolutely. And there are times, where there are days or there are weeks where I need to come home and be with my partner and talk with him about it. There are times where I need to go do something completely different and be distracted. There are times where I need to go to the gym or play tennis. And honestly, Erwin, there are times where all I need is a beer.
love the
Sometimes
beer.
that helps.
That's right, the Austrian German beer. Love it.
As preferably. No, it's about finding just that peace and finding that what is gonna feed your soul in that minute. Is it gonna be talking to somebody? Is it gonna be, a couple miles, even after it's been a long day at
Right,
work? What is gonna
right.
feed your soul? Because we only get one. We only get one body, we only get one soul, and it's our job to take care of it, you know? Hard.
That No, and I love that, Danny, and that's why, like, it's important, and I think, you know, for us, what you just hit me with, feed the soul, right? And a lot of the people, in closing here, is like people. I want to talk to the people. We want to talk to people that are listening that who feels like they're walking through like a thick fog, some tall grass that they can't get out of, and maybe the weight of their job, relationships feels like it's like a physical lead, or maybe the blues have moved in and unpacked the bags in the living room or in our bedroom or in our house, whatever you want to call it. But it's like I want them to hear that, hey, struggling is not a character flaw. It really isn't, guys. It's something that we respond to biologically, emotionally, to a world that asks too much of us and offers far too little in return. Think about that statement, right? So you're not broken, you're or behind. You're simply navigating a difficult chapter day of a very long, long book that we're still writing today, as you said, right, Danny? This is our soul. We got to take care of it. And getting back up doesn't mean we're leaping into this perfect sun-drenched life tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. It starts with the smallest possible movement, the joys, right? It's a decision to drink some beer, or water. I know we went to the beer park. Step outside, just get some walks. And say that, hey, it is okay to say I'm not okay. That's okay to say that, but say it to someone you trust, right? Don't just spill that out, right? I think I've
Agreed.
learned my lesson on that, right, with things, but relearning to love life as a process of reclaiming it, right, guys? So find those glimmers. And as Danny said, right, there's things that you could get some micro wins in, right? Things you could sit on. And the goal is never to fall, it's to develop the grace to forgive yourself when you do fall, right? You have survived 100% of the hardest days already. So keep driving, keep fighting, and the light will find you always, guys. So any closing words, Danny, before we sign off?
Amen. Also, just gonna throw out there, I am not promoting alcoholism or anything like that. Just there's there are limits.
One is a good. One's a good
One
as
is
long as you're
fine,
old enough
yes.
to drink. One is good. Well, Danny, thank you so much. Love you. As you always bring some joy and happiness here, and pleasure to have you on. Thank you for your time and look forward to our next one.
Thank you, Erwin. Me as well. Just it's always such a just boost in my day
You
talking with
too.
you. And I
You
just,
too. Now
yeah,
inspired
love it.
even more so, as I always am. Always, I was inspired to be, and now here I am inspired again.
Yeah.
Take care.
Talk to you soon, Erwin. Bye.
Bye.